Am I blue? There he
There we go.
is. Hello.
Hello, sir.
How goes it?
It goes. How about yourself?
Another week. There's much to talk
Uh,
about in the nerd world, but first, welcome,
yeah, choose
ladies and
choose your
gentlemen,
world.
and all nerds and all fandoms. Welcome to Old Man Blerd, where 250 plus nerds reminisce, complain, whine, preach, proselytize about all things nerddom. And so that would be me, John, and Terrence. And
Yep.
Terrence, what was your nerd week like last
Let's
seven
see.
days?
I went to see where the wild things are at the museum yesterday.
Oh, okay. How was that?
It was interesting because it's one of those things you look at and you're like, I'm not interested.
Hmm.
And then you go and you're like, oh, this is actually quite fascinating.
I think I have a where the wild things are not quite Funko, but like a little statue.
Yeah.
My
Because
cousin.
it was interesting how he said he got into children's books because getting into adult books, it was kind of like guerrilla warfare to go into children's books.
Who was
And
the author?
yes,
Who's the author? I forget.
Maurice Schneck. I probably said his name totally wrong.
I know who you're talking about, though. It's like Maurice Sendak or something like that.
Sindak. That's it. That is it. That is Sindak.
Yeah, it was great because it was the first time I remember a book where the kid was kind of a brat.
Well, that was the thing. He had an interesting philosophy. He said, up until his time, and we can vouch for something that came after the Wild Things. But up
Hmm.
until his time, it was, they always had to have a moral in the children's book.
Sure.
And I would go further to say, in our time when we were kids, because we came a little bit after that, ever so slightly,
Hmm.
it was more of following the story or introducing you to licensed IPs.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, you see a little golden book for Dragon Ball Z. It's not the end of the world, but
Well, I do remember there was a shift, and our generation, Generation X, was kind of the beginning of that shift because then we got all of the Judy Blume books. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, Tales of the Fourth Grade, Nothing, Super Fudge. Then
the
again,
Giving
maybe,
Tree.
yeah, then again, maybe I won't. We had Shel Silverstein, and Shel Silverstein. Uh, yeah, you had all those things, and so it was like they were telling stories, but they were a little off. Roald Dahl, even though I think he had written all of his books before we were coming of age, but I think that James and the Giant Peach and Willy Wonka got popular around our time.
Yeah.
You had, The Secrets of Nim and Velveteen Rabbit, and so I mean they were definitely telling stories that were a little darker, I think, by the
Well,
time
I mean,
we came around.
yeah, because I remember we moved out here in the '80s, and you know how cable and PBS just throw anything on to a degree.
Hmm.
Like they would do the faraway lens for nudity. It looks like you're
Sure,
looking through a microscope because they didn't
sure,
want to erase it, but they wanted you to just basically not be able to see it.
sure.
But I wasn't caring about that. What I'm talking about is Animal Farm was the first cartoon I actually saw. They're killing each other. Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Oh,
And it's from the '40s. It's like, oh my god!
and we also got, I think, Catcher in the Rise. I mean, even though it was written much earlier, started to gain some notoriety around our generation. And you got all those Ralph Bakshi, uh, like
Wizard, Wizard.
yeah, Wizards and Lord of the Rings and all of the Heavy Traffic and Fritz the Cat. You got all that stuff that started happening in the 70s and 80s. Heavy metal,
Yes.
so you definitely got all of these sort of slightly transgressive, little darker edge, maybe for kids, maybe not. Well, in the case of heavy metal, definitely not. But um, yeah, that
Plus,
was.
it did the other part too, though. When you think about it, it made it so that when we became adults, they started doing, especially Cartoon Network,
Mhm.
was trying to take a more serious take on their cartoons, even if it's just for 2 seconds.
Sure.
Case in point, Hong Kong Fooey.
Sure.
They actually did a 2-minute take where it's deadly serious. You obviously took a lot from anime because I mean, there are people if they're not dead, they are very sore.
Sure.
They're learning how to drink through a straw for to eat.
Well, I do think it was a little bit of the hippies growing up and having kids and having a different sensibility. I think that's some of it. And there was always people that were writing earlier than that that didn't catch on in the 50s or 60s, but definitely caught in on the 70s and 80s when we were growing up and being kids. So you saw the Maurice Sendak, I think is the name, Where
Yes,
the
but
Wild
what I
Things
found
Are.
and the
Uh,
most interesting thing I discovered about him is he had a practice that if I was an artist, I think it's pretty cool. He would listen to a song once
mm-hmm,
so he can figure out the timing.
mm-hmm.
And then he would take a full sheet of paper and he would make these basically 1 centimeter comic strips and he would make them as quickly as the music would go.
Wow. That would be a
So
practice.
so that he could just be influenced by the music. And you're just like, wow. And then his later years he worked on operas
Hmm.
and plays.
Oh,
You're
wow.
like, and then he came out. They didn't say when, but he came out and his father's like, you have no kids. He's like, I have 40 million kids. It's called my books. So,
Hmm. Came out of the closet, meaning like he was
yes,
LG. Oh,
yes.
okay. I did not know that.
I didn't know that neither until then. So you see how it goes.
Nice. So I think what was my nerd week? I think my nerd week, last few weeks was catching up on Fantastic Four. This week was catching up on Zeb Miller's Spider-Man. And
Hold
it's
on,
pretty,
hold on a second here. You haven't mentioned the Fantastic Four preview.
yeah, that I think we should discuss at length after this for sure. The Fantastic Four trailer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I
For
mean, it's like
those of
me and
you
the
that are
Superman.
for those
You
of
know me about Superman, and you Fantastic Four. Come on.
Sure, for those handful of you that listen on a semi-regular basis when we're semi-regularly putting these out, I am a Fantastic Four fan. I would say, I don't think they're necessarily my favorite team, but they're definitely it's between them and the X-Men off and on. I mean, I like the Avengers and I like the Justice League, but I feel like they're so inconsistent. It just depends on the run. And with
What
the
do you mean by
Avengers,
inconsistent?
well, like just my taste in them. I mean,
Oh, okay.
I think well, and somewhat inconsistent in the sense of reboots and I mean, how many times have they rebooted JLA? I mean, I remember Justice League International and Justice League Europe that Keith Geffen was writing and doing the
Oh no,
artwork
I can't
for.
deny that. I mean, you're
And
right
then they had
because
JLA with Grant Morrison too.
right, and they also had. As funny it is, they had the UP or the Great Lakes Justice League. At the same time, they had the Great Lake Avengers,
Sure. And
and
then
and to me, those made sense again from a gamer practical point of view or ecology of that universe because it's like we cannot be everywhere.
sure.
So we leave our Batman, Superman for the big stuff.
And every now and then you need a West Coast or Great Lakes Avengers or whatever else. Yeah, that checks out. I mean, but then was JLA mostly, I mean, how many different writers were on JLA? I mean, I remember Dick Giordano
I'll be honest,
and
I've never paid attention to writers. I just kind of like followed the stories.
yeah,
But when they did do international, that was when they first really introduced Maxwell Lord,
yeah, and I thought those were
and
great.
he was doing it from a business point of view. And again, it
Hmm.
was the same practicality. West Coast Avengers was more done like the Legion of Superheroes from DC, substitute heroes, Legion of Substitute Heroes.
Sure.
As he was like, okay, you didn't make the Avengers, but
Hmm.
you can be in the West Coast Avengers. Okay, you didn't make the greatest West Coast Avengers. Okay, you can be a Great Lake Avengers. That's why you got really off color, if you will, off the wall superheroes in the Great Lake Avengers. They some of them are almost closer to being like the boys
Sure.
as
Well,
far as their powers or whatever. You're like, yeah, okay.
Well, and the thing about the Avengers is the problem with the Avengers, I think, was that they never, it made sense for all of those people to get together for these big, colossal events. It probably would have worked better as a book that had limited story arcs, but wasn't always happening. Because at a certain point, it's like, okay, you're going to get Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, and either an Ant-Man or a Giant Man or a Wasp to fight Count Nefarious or to fight one guy. I mean, it didn't always really make sense. When it was like the Kree Skull War,
Well,
Skrull
I
War,
mean,
that made sense.
that goes back to what you said before, which is that there can always be an earth-shattering event, which is
No.
kind of like the offshoot of comicdom. I mean, that is the core of comicdom, and that's where, as much as I hate to say it, a lot of the how would I say the sci possible heroes, if you will,
Hmm. Hmm.
are more popular to the degree like the Knight Rider or the $6 Million Man, or even dare I say Kung Fu, David Carradine,
Sure.
or Run Joe Run, which was probably the closest to kids kung fu as you could get. You probably don't even remember that because it
I
came out just when you were born, I think.
probably 1970. Yeah, that's when I was born.
75.
Oh, so I
Mhm.
was five. Yeah, I was a little before my time.
But the interesting thing
Not
about
by
that,
much. I mean, I was watching cartoons for sure, and I was definitely reading comics in about a year or two.
and the reason why I say that is because the story plot was realistic and interesting yet simple. It's one of those you look at it, it's like, okay, it makes sense. I can go with it, but it wouldn't fly today.
Mm,
Does that make any sense?
that makes sense.
But, okay, a dog trainer, the dog trainer in Vietnam, the dog saved his life from stepping on a mine.
Okay.
They come back to the States, the dog runs away, just
Okay.
runs.
Hmm.
And the story is he's going to try to capture the dog because he loves the dog. It's not because he's trying to get it back to war or anything.
Sure.
So you can say the dog has basically suffered PTSDs.
Hmm.
But meanwhile, on this journey, every episode, the dog was basically like Kung Fu. It would come to someone's life and saved them.
Huh.
A molester, drug dealer, it would save them.
Yeah, so we're no longer in the age of the dog centered story. I mean, the last sort of iteration was probably Air Bud, but remember there used to be a staple of television and movies. You had Benji in the 80s. You had
Lassie, Rin Tin Tin is the one that
Lassie,
started it.
Ren 1010, Lassie. I mean, you always had a dog. It's like, where is he, boy? Okay. And then he's stuck in a well, right? You know, and we just don't have that anymore. Like
Well,
the
part of it is
last,
because, go ahead.
I was gonna say the last dog star that I think that was on the scene was probably the dog that was in Frasier. What was it
Well, yeah,
like?
you're right.
Eddie? Eddie, I
Yeah,
think it was.
no, it was Eddie, like you said. You're right. Before that was Milo in the mask, and
Milo and Otis.
yeah, in the mask.
Oh, okay.
The dog that put on the mask, and he's like, "Oh my God, the Jim Carrey mask."
Oh yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, that was somewhat popular, but I mean, in terms
But
of
no, uh,
routinely seeing them, not very many. Air Bud and what all the stuff that came from that. I mean, they tried
well,
with Beethoven
it's been
and
replaced by Paw Patrol.
sure.
That's what it's been replaced by. And the thing is, the problem is, we are a dog loving society. I mean, you got dog parks and
Sure.
dog walkers and all that other stuff. But the problem is, we also have cynicals and cynics.
Yeah,
And, take care of your dog. And you're like, well, take care of your kid, or better yet, take care of your spouse.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, yeah, and I think that dogs now there's a lot of folks that are maybe taking the dog. Love dogs, have always had dogs, but I think there's some people that are definitely using it as in lieu of having children. And
oh, yeah.
and which is fine. That's not no judgment. I just think and they're
I
treating
mean, I
them.
met a lady years ago, friendly. She had someone, blah, blah, blah. I was working, blah, blah, blah. And she was saying how she had no children and everything. I said, but she had this dog, and that's what me. And so one day maybe decide to, adopt her because she's like, because basically what you just said.
Hmm. And that's,
And the last I've heard her, she did adopt.
Well, I do think that in today's day and age, it's much more difficult to have children than to have a dog. But I think that's one of the reasons why vet bills are so expensive. But back to the subject at hand, the only thing I did nerd wise this in the last week or so was catching up on Spider-Man, which, not bad. I mean, often those issues, this, I guess it's volume 7 or 6 of Amazing Spider-Man. They're still occasionally showing what the number of the actual Amazing Spider-Man number would be. Like it'll be like 42, but then underneath it'll say 951 or something like that. Because they are working their way to get to 1,000, which they're going to get to, I think, fairly quickly. Because I think maybe it's 2, 3 times a month that it comes out. I mean, it's pretty solid
I think,
though, and it's
think they're trying to get to it this year.
yeah, I think they're trying to get to it this year. And it's good stuff. I mean, it's still like will they, won't they with him and Mary Jane, which I don't think is that important, but the Green Goblin's still lurking around. But it's actually been enjoyable. Ed McGuinness is doing some of the artwork, and John Romita Jr. is doing some of the artwork. They're pretty solid. It's definitely not as bad as it has been off and on for years. Better issues, and that's what I caught up with nerd wise. I don't think
And
anything else.
I got my
Didn't you get a
Super
Black
Pets.
Panther, or didn't you get a Hungarian Black Panther #1 or something like that?
I got a Spanish one. That was
Spanish one.
last week.
Yeah, that's
And
last week.
this week I got a Legion of Super Pets where they're judging Superman from Brazil. And next week I should get the first appearance of Blerd in Spanish from Spain.
Wow, different artwork around the same time,
Yes, that's the rule. That's the two rules is you don't care about the different artwork because that's hit or miss. You know what I mean? It's
but
nice when they honor their local artists,
sure.
but you don't want a reprint like they had X-Men 1
Hmm.
from Mexico and it was 2015. It's like you don't want that because you might as well go get the 400 different reprints they have from Marvel already.
That's fair. I think some
Yeah.
of those Marvel Tales and Marvel Superheroes and Marvel Triple Action, a lot of those comic books have gone up in price,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
because
which is
I
surprising.
mean, well, there's no more surprising than the facsimiles now. That's the big thing now. The facsimiles, you'll jump up and you'll see, and it says, "Oh yeah, it's $99." If first you see it, and you go, "First appearance of Moon Knight, $99." You look real close. Wait a minute, it looks too good. And then
So
you read the description.
the
Facsimile.
facsimiles are going up in price.
Yes, especially if you grade them.
Huh. That's bananas. Well, it's because I think outside of the cover price, everything else is identical. I mean, I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know. I don't know. They're not using newsprint, are they?
No, everything's identical. What's also interesting though is sometimes they do what has been done in movies, what has been done in plots and everything. As in, if they can find a ream of paper from that same time period, they'll reprint it on that paper of
Oh,
that age.
that could be why they're going up in price. Yeah, but here's a tip for everybody out there. If you're buying people's comic book boxes and they're going by weight, choose the light boxes. The light boxes are going to be your Silver Age and Bronze Age stuff. The heavier boxes are going to be all the stuff that they print nowadays. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and
go ahead.
I was going to say, and they're doing a lot of. Let's see, they got the DC Black History Month honor. That was one. I haven't read it yet, but they got that. They did that.
Well, that's good that at least DC Comics and Marvel Comics are still honoring Black History Month because the government isn't.
I was going to
So
say, time is ticking.
time
We
is
are an
ticking.
endangered
Yeah,
species.
that's not going to have it for much longer. Um, so yeah, that was what I did nerd-wise. And then of course, the Fantastic Four trailer. Should probably talk about that. That's an up and coming thing. Did you see it? You saw it, didn't
I
you?
saw that. I saw that, and I saw Final Destination 6
Oh, okay. So
preview too.
on the horror tip.
Well, that's
So
I mean, who is your horror icon, if you will? I have four, and they're basically
hmm.
all had the same thing in common. If you mess
So
up, then you die.
yeah, so for me, I wasn't a big Freddy person. Freddy came out kind of after my preteen, early teenage horror interest. He was
Mm.
after that, and I just thought he was kind of corny. I just the quips and the the one-liners. I was like, okay, um, he's fine. I like him now. I like him much more now than I liked him then. Then I just thought he
That's because you
was.
gotten older now. What I mean by that is, at our age, we start sitting with, you have the two victims. You have the one, God, I feel sorry for him. God, I feel sorry for him. Then you have the other. Do you need some help?
Yeah, it's like
Yes,
maybe
kill him.
no, kill that
Yeah,
person. Yeah, and
yes,
I
kill
think but I
him.
had a always had a hard time with the not hard time, but I've always been like, I'm not into the horror icons themselves that much. I mean, like I love Halloween and I love Michael Myers, but I'm not like a Michael Myers fan more as I'm a fan of the franchise. And with Jason, I for me, those were less intelligent versions of Michael Myers. Not that Michael Myers was
Oh
more.
no, what you say is true. It's just like how it's more like whatever I can find, I will kill you with.
Yeah, and like there's a point where it's like, okay, it depends. Like, are you interested? It's like a person can, excuse me, watch a horror movie in a couple many different ways, but I think two of the main ways are you rooting for the victim or are you rooting for the villain? And if you're rooting for the villain, I think that's when you get your um Terrifier and your Freddy's and your Jasons to some extent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you
Whereas if you,
scream Ghostface,
yeah, it
screaming
goes
Ghostface.
well with Ghostface, I think they split it. I think that you're kind of more rooting for the people in the Scream franchise. You want Dewey and you want all of those people to kind of survive. And that's why it
Right.
was really hard when like some of the main people in like, David Arquette's character died. It was like spoiler for those of you who haven't. I mean, this has been a few years, so if you're a Scream fan and haven't watched that one, I guess I don't know what to tell you, um but there's Jamie Lee Curtis is more of a character in the Halloween films. And so, but like in Jason, it's just miscellaneous topless teenagers. And
Well, that was the thing is that, and what I mean by that, if you look at it from a sociological point of view, that was the beginning of crop tops, belly shirts was that first one.
yeah, it's
But it
like
was also was the beginning of the blossoming girl. What I mean, the girl who
Final
realizes
Girl.
that she's a girl, realizes she's a girl, and she goes and put on a dress after running around pants all the time, and she dies. And
Sure. Well, and I got, I do like the final girls in the first and second fantastic I mean Fantastic Four. First and second Friday the 13th. And I got pictures with them and autographs and I thought they were great. But in general, they were a lot of expendable people in the Friday the 13th movies.
oh yeah, he
Um,
still has the top outside of my group. My group is I like Pinhead,
okay.
and then I like the stepfather.
Stepfather?
Mm-hmm.
What's that in?
Stepfather. That is the name of the is a horror franchise. They only did three of them,
Wait, there's a
and
horror franchise that's just the Stepfather.
the stepfather,
Wow.
and
I feel
and
like I'm pretty well versed in horror movies and that for whatever reason I have not heard of that one. Okay. Stepfather
Terry
and
Terry
Pinhead.
Terry O'Quinn. Terry O'Quinn
Okay.
plays the stepfather,
Okay. What's the
and
next?
his thing is he's trying to find the perfect family.
Oh
And the
Lord.
moment that you do not behave, accidents start happening.
Okay. Oh,
Fatal
that's,
accidents start happening.
yeah. Strange that didn't I haven't heard of that one. What's your third
Well,
one?
my third one is death. Final destination. Petty
Oh,
death.
okay.
Let's be honest.
Okay. Yeah, that's
That
that.
way when you die, you're going to die horribly wrong.
Yeah. Well, now in terms of like the horror stuff, oh, that's right. You know what I just watched? I this last weekend I just watched Longlegs.
Really? And how was it?
It's very good. It's very good. Um, only slight spoiler about Longlegs. Nicolas Cage is in it.
Oh, really, man? I didn't know. Yeah, I knew that. Because
You
they
knew
kept on talking
that?
about how you did. They talked
Yeah,
about how you're so good at it. That's the only
but
reason I do that. That's the
you
only
know
reason I
what?
do it.
This is the reason why that's a bit of a spoiler, is because if it wasn't him, it would have been the perfect movie. But having been him, it was really good. You forget it's him off and on. At least I forgot off and on, but not all the way off. Like if it had been just some miscellaneous dude, like the actor that plays, what is the clown in Terrifier?
I know
What's
who you're
the
talking about. I don't know his name though.
not
Oh,
the
you're talking
actor,
about
but
Art the
the
Clown. Art
Art
the
the
Clown.
clown.
Art the Clown.
If it had been just a new actor doing the character, it might have been better because you would have never had the association of it being Nicolas Cage in this role. But that said, it was still a really good horror film, uh, with some surprises and some interesting things. And I had been waiting. My wife and I are horror fans, and we've been waiting, and it never went to just free rental on any of the streaming services. But it finally got to like 3.99. So we were like, well, okay, maybe waited a little longer. I mean, this is a movie that came out early last year, probably
Yes,
early
yes.
last year, and is
About this
still,
time last year. About this time
yeah,
last year.
still charging for rental on streaming service. There isn't a movie. I mean, Deadpool, Wolverine. I mean, any number of movies that came out afterwards uh aren't rental. You can just stream. Um, but for whatever reason, they have just milked the last cent out of that movie. And finally, we just got tired of waiting because I mean, we've literally been waiting. We heard all this great stuff about it, and it ended up, you know, being really, really good, worth the $4. Um, really good. Uh, gives you a bit of Seven vibes. Um,
Hmm.
gives you a little bit of an A24 vibe. It's not an A24 film, I believe. The production company's Neon, and I think Neon and A24 and Shudder and Blumhouse are kind of the big names in doing really good horror right now. But it was good.
Right.
And so now I just have to wait. I'm going to see Heretic, which is an A24 horror film with Hugh Grant.
Grant.
hmm So
And
I
my
want.
my last one is Jigsaw. That's my last one.
And your last one's Jigsaw. So I have to confess, as a horror fan, I've certainly seen dozens and dozens. I can't say hundreds, but definitely dozens and dozens of horror films. I have not seen any of the Saw movies. I think
Well,
the
I
first Saw I would probably watch, but the ending, the spoiler, the surprise was ruined for me. And so it's kind of like, well, if that's the big, reveal, I can't, that's not going to be that enjoyable. Um,
well the two things about Saw that's interesting to me is that number one, they have a PS3 game,
mhm.
and they actually count that as canon,
Oh,
part of the
goodness.
story.
Okay,
And that's one. And then two, they have this guy in Mexico, that place that's becoming a place we can't really go.
sure.
He does claymation Saw movies.
Oh, did you hear there's actually a claymation movie that's supposed to be very, very good that came out maybe a year or two ago, where a woman is a claymation artist, like stop motion artist, and the movie is a horror movie, and what she's doing in her making of her own movie within the movie, it sort of patterns off of some of the horror elements that are going in there. It's supposed to be one of the best horror movies in the last 5 years. It's supposed to be very good. I forgot what it's called. I'll have to look it up. But so there's a person that does claymation Saw movies.
Yeah. And I mean, and one of them you can actually say either they took from him or he took from them. You know what I mean? Because the guy is found in a church
Uh-huh.
And if he confess, you know, he'll be let go, but otherwise, not let go. Saudi don't let you go, but
Hmm.
he'll be blinded, and he refuses to. So he just gets filled up in a casket full of hot wax.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
I mean, the guy does it all the time. He's done about three of them that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, it takes away, or you go, wow, because he tries to do the lady's voice at the same time. You're like, okay, okay, this is interesting.
Hmm.
It gives you some, was it moral oil
More, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
from the 60s, 70s. Yeah, yeah, it gives you those vibes. It's like, saw you like, oh, yeah.
Actually, I think the film is called Stop Motion. Yeah, Stop Motion is, sorry, I was gonna bug me if I didn't find that. It's a stop motion. It's a British uh psychological horror thriller called Stop Motion.
oh, oh, that is no big deal. I mean, as
Um,
far as you coming up with it, what it
but
got me is I've been thinking, how something bugs you as far as from the point of view of the old Frankenstein versus Dracula versus the Wolfman.
yeah,
I've been thinking because they all seem supernatural.
sure.
Okay. It'd be
Frankenstein
interesting.
being the
Art,
first zombie.
yeah, I was thinking, see, Art the Clown
Mm-hmm.
meets the Jester, meets the meme.
Meets the meme.
You ever seen that one?
Meme. Oh goodness. See, look at me. You're just that's two now. Stepfather and meme. Um, heard of it, haven't seen it though. Good?
It is not bad. I mean, there's not going to be Shakespeare in any of these things as far as high end. They always go, well, it's really this or really that, and it's good for what it is. That's the best way to put it. Because there's very few movies that go, why? That's what it is with a horror movie when it comes to me. It's like, why?
Well,
Why did you make this?
so then this is turning into the horror episode of Old Man Blerd, which is good. I mean, it's a nerddom is absolutely throughout horror. Here's my question. Okay, I feel like there's a few different horror fans. I think there's the horror fans that maybe are a little more artsy. And I think there's the horror fans that just like the genre and watch everything. And then there's the horror fans that like it kind of kitschy and goofy and almost so like Sharknado type. Not that Sharknado is a horror, but that kind of,
Killer clowns.
yes, like they want the zaniness. It's almost like they want to sort of just get stoned and and watch a horror film that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, like Leprechaun or or
Well,
stuff like.
Leprechaun is a good example of that because I mean, like Leprechaun and Freddy Krueger
Hmm.
have one thing as then Freddy Krueger with the dreams.
Hmm.
And both of them got to a focal point that I didn't like that Wishmaster picked up. And
Hmm.
what I mean is, because you know about Wishmaster.
Hmm.
Okay. And you know about Leprechaun and Freddy Krueger. Okay. Freddy Krueger to me was cool when in your dream you're running up a hill
Hmm.
and actually in reality you're running down a hill.
Hmm.
You understand? So you set yourself up to get killed.
Hmm.
Whatever it was, the dream distorted the reality.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I mean, I don't get me wrong, like him crushing the girl who hated cockroaches,
Hmm.
that still wasn't that same time period. So it could have been something fell on her
Sure.
and crushed her. They didn't
Hmm.
tell us what happened. They just told us she died. You understand?
Hmm.
But I mean, they had that girl who he sucked her dry and she had asthma. And in her reality, she was sucked dry, but in reality, she just had an asthma attack.
Hmm.
I like that. I didn't like it when he came in and physically because the dreams was the whole point to me.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
Leprechaun is the same thing. Watch what you wish for. The lady, I want to be beautiful. At first, he makes her chest grow big, and then it gets so big she can't move.
Sure.
And then her
Well,
butt gets cement until finally she pops.
yeah,
I like that better than Leprechaun in the Hood where he's just throwing fireballs.
yeah. There's actually a really good documentary. I think it's called Horror Noir or Black Noir or something like that, and it's about the history of Black people and horror movies, both being in them and fans of them. It's a really good documentary. Yeah, it's yeah. So Leprechaun in the Hood, yeah, something for the hood rats. Now,
Oh
see,
God, it's
so
horrible from that point of view.
for
Go ahead.
me, I guess maybe I'm a bit of a snoot. I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to horror. I like Giallo. I like Giallo. And I like A24, and I like usually the first iteration of any franchise. I typically like that. And I mean, I like stuff like The Babadook and Audition and Exorcist, and I like those movies. I like The Host. I like a good monster horror film. Uh, so I do like, I don't like ones that are poorly acted or executed very much. Like, I can get behind Phantasm, but it's got some interesting concepts. It makes no sense at all.
Oh, it makes plenty of sense.
I don't think so. I,
I
I
mean, it makes plenty of sense. When the concept makes plenty of sense. Is that somehow they have a doorway where, for lack of a better term, there is another race who use our dead as servants.
sure.
And the tall man is probably their first victim, truly, because they really never defined that.
No,
So
they
he's
they
probably their
kept
first
that
victim.
they kept that blurry. And then there's the
Yeah,
flying ball.
which is their enforcer. I mean, it's
Yes,
just like, okay, we could do this with a stick, or we can do this with a handshake.
sure. I'll have to watch it again because it has been decades since I've seen that movie. But
And I mean, let's be honest. Nowadays, we can actually make that ball with a drone. That's a thought.
hmm. That's another, that reminds me, you should check out Horror's Greatest. It's this series, and they go through like Horror's greatest scores, Horror's greatest sci-fi horror movies, Horror's greatest slashers. It comes out, I think, pretty much weekly, and it has come out weekly for at least the last few months. And it's got, they have a couple of seasons, I think, too. It's not like the Eli Roth history of horror, which is also good. But
Well, and people don't understand that sometimes horror gets to a point that they become the heroes. And I'm talking about like Dracula or the Wolfman.
sure,
They got to a point they have become the heroes. Frankenstein is always iffy.
I think,
It really is because they want to make him the hero, but they don't at the same time. Is
I
He's the ultimate other.
well, and he's, the thing about Frankenstein though is that he is um the first zombie, right? He's the sort of
I'm saying
first
he's the ultimate other.
he's the
He
first
knows what
zombie.
death is. He knows he
Sure.
can come back. And actually, I was thinking about that. Now, this is how should I say, the fan twist, the fan theory that you would love to see, but they're not going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking, since Tony Todd died, if he hadn't died, because they say he's in this new one,
Tony Todd,
just the
refresh my
yeah,
memory.
he's the one who plays the zombie in Night of the Living Dead, that
Oh,
was
okay.
done by Tom Savino.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who played the Dark God in Hercules.
Okay, yeah,
He,
gotcha.
he's okay. Um. Anyway, Candyman. He plays Candyman,
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah, he just passed away. What am I thinking? Gosh. Yeah.
and he. I thought it would always be interesting if it turned out that he was actually Lazarus,
Oh, that'd be great.
and
Yeah,
that
I
death
wish I
death would come and visit him like once every year or every 10 years, like an old friend at dinner. You know what I mean? It's like, oh,
I
how you be? Blah 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 blah.
I wish
Yeah.
I could have met him actually.
Hmm.
That would have been
Well, that's
nice.
another thing
Yeah,
is
because
that
he passed away. What was it, last year? Just
he passed
some
away about 6 months ago.
Yeah, last year. And it was sad because he did get his props though. He did get his props because I think Candyman is widely regarded as one of the better horror movies from that period of time,
And
and
also, he's one of the
and one of the
better of
better
the.
movies overall. One of the better horror movies overall.
I was going to say he's one of the better, because we have so few. Let's be honest. Better black antagonists
Well, there, I
in
don't
the
know.
horror movie.
Can
'Cause
I don't know of how many you have aside from maybe Blackula and
I was going to say Blackula, you have Candyman, and then it starts to dwindle.
yeah, I'm not sure how many there are. But that movie that's on, the Black experience in horror movies, there was this one early sort of Black exploitation horror movie that's supposed to be really good, and it's like kind of a vampire movie, but kind of not. And I forgot what it's called, but that's one to check out. And it's an all black cast.
Now you know who has the 70s style in her face. I can't think of her name to save my life. Can't even really think of her character to a degree. She
Hmm.
played the goddess in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Um,
You know who I'm talking about.
Now wait, no, who is this?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay, I never seen any of. By the way, all of those Johnny Depp movies have not seen any. By the way, that movie that's the documentary on black horror films and horror fandom is called Horror Noir: A History of Black Horror. It's a Shudder original. But you were saying,
Well, she just, I'll have to send you the picture of her because I can't think of her name. But
hmm,
she basically plays a Jamaican goddess, the ocean goddess. Okay.
okay,
And she has the facial style of the 1970s B movie actress.
and it's not Pam Grier.
It's not Pam Grier. I mean,
Hmm,
she's our age, if not a little bit younger.
hmm.
And this is from Pirates of the Caribbean, so
So
not Pam Grier.
I'm actually on Rotten Tomatoes. And they have the top 25 black horror films. Get Out's number one. Attack Night of the Living Dead, black protagonist, number two. Us,
Dawn of the Dead should be number 3 or 4.
Attack the Block. I don't know what that one is. Candyman,
Hmm.
His House. There it is. Ganja and Hess. Ganja and Hess is the one that I was looking for. But anyway, you were saying, okay, now this is someone our age.
Yeah, you're look up Pirates of the Caribbean,
Okay.
and you should just see if you can see the cast, on the internet
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
movie database,
Internet Movie Database, our friend. Okay. Pirates of the
and
Caribbean.
just look at the cast and look for a black lady.
Okay. I will do that. Pirates of the Caribbean. There we go. Jeffrey Rush and Johnny Depp. Full cast list. Okay. Let's get to it. Photos. Top cast. Okay. I do not.
Maybe
Oh,
Dead Man's
Zoe
Chest.
Saldana. Are you thinking Zoe Saldana? You know, who played
No, no, no,
Gamora,
no,
and that's the one
no,
that
no,
pops
no.
up for Pirates of the
No,
Caribbean.
we'll go to Dead Man's Chest.
Okay. Because Zoe
Pirates of the
Sald
Caribbean Dead Man's Chest.
okay, Dead Man's Chest. Dead Man's Chest. Typing, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Okay. Let's see. Top cast. Looking for Naomi Harris.
That could be
That
her.
Yep, she's not someone I recognize. We're gonna click on her. Oh
Does she
yeah,
look
okay,
like
yeah. There's a movie
she
that yeah,
her
there's
eyes and her face?
she's in 28 Days Later. She's in a couple of James Bond films. She's in The Wasp, The Man Who Fell to Earth, the new TV series. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So what were you talking about? Rampage, she was in.
What does character does she play?
What character does she play in Pirates of the
Dead Man's
Caribbean?
Chest. Yes.
Tia Dalma.
Nope. Keep going.
Okay. So not that woman. Let's see. Okay, I guess I gotta go for all cast and crew. But the problem is, this is all cast and crew. They're not going to show me pictures for everybody. They might show me some, but they're not going to show me
Well,
all.
you should see a name that starts with a C, character wise.
Characterize. Cannibal Woman?
No, keep going.
Cannibal, Carruthers Guard,
Nope. Keep going. Supposed to be
uh,
like she's some sort of
Cannibal
goddess thing.
Boy, Crippled Man, Cannibal Warrior, Captain Bellamy, Cutler Beckett, Cotton. Yeah, I am not seeing anybody. But what is the movie that she's in?
Oh, that's what she's in. I just can't think. It was her facial structure I was talking about.
Oh,
Is that she looks like she's from the 70s.
oh, yeah, that's fair. So the
Yeah.
other essential black horror movies. So remember, Ganja and Hess, kind of a weird black exploitation 70s movie. It was 1973, and it's number 7, so probably worth checking out. Eve's Bayou, Beloved, which is kind of horrifying. Candyman, of course. Vampire in Brooklyn. What? Zombies of Sugar Hill? Death by Temptation. People Under the Stairs, Sweetheart, Blade 2, Black Box, JD's Revenge, Ma. Never saw Ma. Wasn't interested in it. Blade, Blackula, Tales from the Hood, Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight, and Bones. So, yeah, it's pretty slim pickings when it comes
Now,
to.
JD's Revenge is interesting because Bones and JD's Revenge are basically almost the same movie.
Oh,
I
really?
never seen either one. I'm not gonna lie, but when I was a kid, I remember the preview, and the preview was almost identical to both of them. It's like they were both street hustlers. They both died, and they both come back.
Yeah, and one is played by Snoop, who is
Yeah, that was
kind of
Bones, I believe.
who's kind of persona non grata now because after playing the Trump the Trump inaugural, I think he was playing like the cryptocurrency party or something. But dude, come on. Anyway, that's the
Oh, speaking of
least.
that, did you check out Roscoe Brown?
I did not, but I now am going to name a character Roscoe Brown because I'm so moved. I'm writing a I'm writing a western right now, so screenplay.
Did
So
you see a picture of him?
yeah, I did. I remember him. He played like a butler in a proper English butler in something or another. I forgot what. He was a famous black actor in the 70s because he was like you could tell he was like Shakespearean trained.
Yeah,
Like
yes.
that
He was always proper.
because he was always very proper and he would always get roles where he was very, to coin a phrase I hate, articulate. He was very articulate.
Why you
Uh,
hate that? I know you're the language major, but why you hate it?
it's because it's usually in reference to Black people who speak English in a non-Ebonics kind of way.
Oh, I mean,
And
like they talk about us that you talk white.
yeah, exactly. So it's just articulate, just another version of that. It's like saying someone's beautiful or someone's exotic. It's like mm, beautiful. It's like they're not a person of color. Exotic, they are. It's kind of, I don't like either of those terms. Exotic, articulate, I just feel like they're coded. But that's just me. And I'm a
No, I think
language.
that's funny because I never thought about that. But in Fable, the black hooker,
Hmm.
she's the exotic woman, and exactly that's what it said. Yes, you want to go an exotic, and like,
Yeah, it's like we just when you want to refer to someone that's beautiful and they're not blonde and blue-eyed, it's like exotic, if they're a person of color. And if you're a black person that sounds like you're fairly intelligent and doesn't necessarily speak with, African American vernacular English, then they say
shame on
that
you.
you're articulate. You're a very articulate young man. I've heard
Well,
it, and
when we were
it
younger, we all took that as a compliment. But now I just don't think about it. But you
no.
brought it back to me thinking about it. It's just like,
Yeah, when you think about it, it's usually someone that is not black saying that you're smart. So, and it's just ick. Gives me the
it's
ick.
kind of like, oh, some of my friends are black.
Yes,
Some of my friends are white.
gives me the ick. But yeah, Candyman. Yeah, that's 6 months ago. I wonder if I probably could get on eBay and find an autograph picture of him. Because he deserves all of the flowers. He deserves all of the flowers.
Oh yeah, because he was one of the he was William Marshall was the first.
Well, and he was another person. He was a recent person who would have been called articulate.
I'm
Do
saying William Marshall was the first because God,
I don't know why I did not get
the
the name of
first
Tony Todd. I don't know why that just it clicked, but I was like, wait, go on, go
I
on.
guess you could say the first to a degree, and it's really edgy. And when I mean edgy, not as edgy as in, tempting. I mean edgy as is on the edge, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Emperor Jones.
Who?
Really? Are
Rupert
you serious?
Jones?
Emperor Jones.
Emperor Jones.
Are you serious? You don't know about Emperor Jones?
I wait, let's take a look.
I'm only 5 years older than you, not 1,000.
Oh, you mean with Paul Robeson?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine. No, yeah, Paul, but Paul, that's again, someone who
I'm
had
talking about
was
the whole concept that he's bulletproof and everything, supernatural.
hmm,
And it's not that he is. You left ambiguous whether he is or isn't
mm-hmm,
by the time he's killed.
sure.
But that could be you consider in a way the first horror movie, even though it's more of I don't know, you get someone who has power and then they want to tell people what to do and people get killed.
Yeah. An
Nothing like we
unscrupulously
identify
and
now.
to describe it, an unscrupulously ambitious Brutus Jones escapes from jail after killing a guard and through bluff and bravado finds himself the emperor of a Caribbean island. I mean, it's vaguely horror-ish. I guess I mean, the whole Caribbean is like the whole notion of the magical Negro and voodoo and all that sort of stuff. So,
Well, they're
checks
just playing out the
checks
like I said, the idea that he can't be hurt
hurt.
and they made it so that he could do whatever he wants. That was the supernatural play. And like I said,
Gotcha.
they leave it ambiguous whether he was or wasn't.
Hmm.
Because, it could have been maybe something deflected it. You understand?
I
A
have
bullet or
not
whatever.
seen. I think the only thing of Paul Robeson I've seen is probably Othello, to be perfectly honest.
Which is not a
So,
bad thing to see.
no, he was great.
I mean, as much as I love the concept of Orson Welles and Laurence Olivier doing Othello,
Hmm.
from an artistic point of view, I kind of look at it like Patrick Stewart during at that time, except everybody in the cast was black and he was white.
Hmm.
That's how you got around it,
That
which was
made
equally
sense. Yeah, I mean,
good.
like I say, I think that, which is, I think that's sad because okay, what was that John Wayne film with Roscoe Jones in it? It was the
Cowboys. It was the
Cowboys. Yeah,
Cowboys.
the
It's the only
Cowboys.
time John Wayne has ever been killed on screen, ever.
Yay. Um, yeah, I said it. I'm not a fan. Super racist dude. Super racist dude. Don't
I
care.
love the movie, but I don't love it because of him. He has nothing to do with my love. It has to do with Roscoe Jones, with two things.
Well,
I mean,
see, it's
Roscoe
not.
Brown.
See, yeah, Roscoe Lee Brown is the actor. Jebediah Nightlinger is the character's name.
Right. And what I like about it is like, for instance, they have this madam that's trying to bring her girls to, get the cowboys and they have a nice interaction and it finally ends with she offering. He goes, you know what? I would love to. I just don't have the time.
Well, we should give Roscoe Lee Brown
It's flowers
his
too.
his flowers too. So we're gonna have to call this one Roscoe Lee Brown and Tony Todd. Um, but not a horror person, but he was in Logan's Run.
Yes. He played the voice of the robot
Yep.
that was
Yep.
killing people.
And he was in the TV series The Wild Thornberrys. And he was in Spider-Man the animated series, so he
Yep.
counts. We got to give
Yep.
him his nerd props. He was in The Phantom as well.
Yep.
So, he's got some, yeah, let's give him some props. He was in Swamp Thing also,
Yep. Yep.
TV series 1990. So he was super great. I remember him in Benson for sure.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I think let's take a look. Yeah, he was in a lot of stuff. Black Like Me, so he was in some stuff. But yeah, The Invaders actually he was in too.
Mm-hmm.
So wow. Yeah. I remember also him in Sanford and Son. Uh
You know, it's kind of bad that we are the same age as Red Fox when he did that. We're
really?
actually older than him. We
You're
are actually
just
older
we're
than him.
older than Man. Well, I guess we are gray. At least I am. Well, you are too, actually. What am I kidding? You're grayer than I am, actually.
Yeah, and I have the hairdo too. I have the
Right?
hairdo too. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Well, just need to say, Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you. Um,
Not yet.
but so Roscoe Lee Brown, Tony Todd. There we go. Shout outs for both those people. Um, well, now that just that was a horror digression, but now let's get to the Fantastic Four, the trailer. What'd you think?
Love Herbie. I love the way they got him as an assistant. I
Yeah,
love the aesthetic of this semi-futuristic, the way the World Fair viewed the future in the 60s was the way
uh-huh.
they did the aesthetic of Fantastic Four. I love that.
Yeah, they made it very much like it's a 60s retro future aesthetic. What
I
is
love the idea
Herbie's?
that they didn't come in with their powers. They said at the beginning, I mean, obviously they had them when we come along, you
Yeah,
know.
I want to know what Herbie's first appearance in comics is because I
It
feel
was it was about 180 between 180 and 225 because it came out, you know why he was created, right?
yeah, because they had sorry, my dog's barking. They didn't want kids to set themselves on fire with the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four
Exactly.
cartoon. So they just made Herbie, which is, kind of not, I don't know. He was
Well, that
let's
harkens back to Superman because when Superman George Reeves came out, a lot of people would take a blanket, put it on their back or towel, and jump off a building.
Fantastic Four 209 is his first appearance. I bet you I'm gonna look on eBay and see. I bet you that's shot up. Fantastic Four 209. It's his first appearance actually in comics. $28.
Grab it,
Yeah, $24 actually. $50,
grab
some
it,
of them. Yeah.
grab it.
No, there's some of them that are in real harsh condition. Yeah, they're
The
go
the the 50. Which one is CBS or CBGS?
CBG. You mean grading the books?
Well, yeah, because they have CBCS and then they have CBGs.
Yeah. None of them are graded. So because oh, look, first appearance of Herbie the Robot, $10. Someone is selling it for, and it's got 7 bids. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. Most of them look pretty thrashed. Someone is selling a lot of 8 issues for $30. That's what the current bid is, but it's got 3 days. Yeah, people were on that as soon as Herbie, $129 for 5 of them, which isn't the worst thing. $198 for a 9.6.
Really, that's
Yep.
just so desperate. That's so desperate. That goes
But
back to what we were saying that the four rules. I used to say three rules, but the four rules of collecting: popularity, which we're going through now;
mhm,
clarity, which is a condition;
mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
treasury, which is made of.
you can buy that and 3 other Fantastic Fours for $45. I that's just bananas. I mean, I guess it makes sense because, Herbie, he was in the comics. Oh, you can buy. Oh, someone sell. Yeah, there's a bunch of people selling it now. Checks out. As soon as they showed Herbie, it was like, oh, it's off to the races now.
Let's see how many full size props they'll sell of Herbie because they sold a lot of full size R2 units for about 4K,
Mhm.
and same thing about Wally. That's about 4K. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this
So let's see
person
about
doesn't
Herbie.
know that they have a first Herbie and they're selling a bunch of books for $40 or best offer. But that somebody's gonna
They'll know soon.
um not it's not a really good looks like that particular one's not in great shape. So Fantastic, fantastic. My dog is losing his mind. Fantastic Four 209 is what you got to look for, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, they say July is going to be
Milton,
the month.
July is going to be the month.
Superman, Fantastic Four,
Oh yeah.
and Jurassic Park Rebirth.
Huh. Well, I have to admit, I kind of think that both of them really gave me the feels. Uh, so for those who haven't seen the Fantastic Four trailer, spoilers. So it opens with Sue Storm sort of showing someone around the Baxter building, and her and Reed are talking about how they always have dinner at the same time every day. They show Thing, the best thing I've ever seen, but people are like, "Oh, it's CG. I like practical effects." This is the first thing that actually looks like the Thing. No other thing has ever looked like the Thing, like this thing. The
You
Thing
don't think so?
looks no, I maybe the Roger Corman one, but
Oh,
the one that had
the
what's
Michael
his
Chalice one?
yeah, no, that wasn't really particularly good. Michael Chiklis, you mean? Or thinking.
Yes. Chickless. Chickless.
Yeah, no, I didn't think that looked at all like him. I think he had a personality and the voice. Um, but this thing looks like the Thing. And Herbie looks like Herbie, and which is going to make that Fantastic Four 2009 skyrocket in price because that's how we do things now. The movies only are a way to increase the value of the comic. Uh, and uh, they show, Johnny Storm, flaming on and very retro futuristic, fantastic art to me. And then they show Galactus, and we're talking about ginormous, big, walking giant Galactus. Now,
Human
I
being.
human, yes, human
Form.
being,
Form.
yeah,
Form.
humanoid form, and so every single person that I saw a reaction to was like, "Isn't he bigger?" I was like, "Oh my goodness. Tell me you've never read a comic without telling me you've never read the comic." Um, Galactus consumes planets. He does not take them like an apple and bites into them. So he is just a skyscraper sized dude. So he is accurate in his size, but people were like constantly like, "I don't think that's his size. He's supposed to be bigger." It's like, no,
He
he's
can be bigger, but it costs a lot of energy.
yeah. I mean, he can be, but he doesn't get real big. I mean, I think I've never seen him as big as a planet. I don't think I've seen him pretty big, but I haven't seen him like that big. I mean, skyscraper sized. He's like, you know, in any number of Fantastic Four comics, he's about the size of a 10, 12-story building, maybe 15. Because he is solidly building his machinery on, I think it was the Baxter building itself. And he wasn't the length of the Baxter building. He was smaller than that. So anyway, he's good. He's big, and he's gonna try and eat the planet. So I imagine if they're smart, well, now this, in my opinion, if anyone wants to bet me, I will win this bet. They are making the Silver Surfer a woman.
Yes, they are.
It's an elsewhere story, a multiverse story, obviously. And I think the reason why is because they didn't want to introduce Alicia Masters, and Alicia Masters was the reason why the Silver Surfer turns on Galactus. And this is, I think, before she became Ben Grimm's girlfriend. So what they're
Hmm.
going to do is, I bet $100 easy, they're going to turn the Silver Surfer falling in love with Johnny Storm. That's how that's going to work. And that Johnny Storm is going to turn her against Galactus, which I don't know. I feel like that could play fine, or it could play really lame.
Why wouldn't they do it the other way then? Why wouldn't they use Alicia?
because I think they would have to, and this it probably is any number of things that have to do with copyright and ownership, but my guess is that it makes it so that uh it's probably that somebody owns Alicia and not Marvel, Alicia Masters. That'd be my guess. Because otherwise, they could just have introduced Alicia Masters as kind of having a crush on Ben and them dating. And then the Silver Surfer meets her. And, the Silver Surfer is a big, broody, lots of exposition kind of Marvel character. Like he was like the king of
Thanks.
he was just the angstiest of angst. He was your supreme sad boy Marvel character. So, they could have. I I don't think that they were doing it because of some kind of quote unquote woke reason. I don't. But maybe. Maybe
If it
just
was because of a woke reason, the only thing would be is because she's blind, and who knows how many blind actresses. I mean, obviously, percentage wise, there are plenty of them, but
sure.
who knows who can convey
Milton.
and do what they want them to do? You know what I mean? As far as the character goes.
Yeah, I think that
Because
that
think
it
about it from the point of view, if this just throwing it out there, let's say there's an actress out there, but she is Chinese
mm-hmm,
or Latin,
mm-hmm,
let alone black. What I
mm-hmm,
mean is that first thing they'll start hearing is that is woke or something.
mm-hmm.
And maybe they don't want to deal with that crap. You
Maybe.
know,
I mean, but I,
'cause-
I think the actress that's playing Silver Surfer is I forgot she's been in quite a bit of stuff. Um I'm sure she'll be fine, but I think that's my guess is that they're just going to turn the Silver Surfer into a love interest for Johnny Storm. But and I think that, the fandom could get mad at that. Because, the Silver Surfer's got a lot of fans. Silver Surfer is not I mean, he's a beloved character for sure, and arguably one of the most beloved when it comes to the Fantastic Four, anyway.
well, I would say
Uh,
he's one of the ones that we all like as far as geekdom, from the point
mhm.
of view that we all have had that moment that we
Milton,
are saddened or
come here.
angst or emoed. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And we can identify with that because I mean, they try to do that other thing, as I mentioned before, with Ben from
Hmm.
the outlook of him being a rock. You know, and
Yeah.
there's a point that it works and the point. But also, let's talk about the Mole Man one being in it too.
Is Mole Man in it as well?
Well, John Malkovich is playing the long hair, and he looks like the first Mole Man, not the one with the glasses, the one with the long hair, the first Mole Man.
I don't remember that Mole Man. I remember the Mole Man in the first issue of Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I think they had another one before that.
Huh, weird. Maybe in like one of those comics like where monsters dwell or something like that.
Yeah, it's like I Am Groot was actually your first monster in that. You're absolutely correct. It could be something like that.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I don't know if it was stunt casting to cast a woman actress to be Silver Surfer. Let me type it in. I don't want to keep talking about this actress without mentioning,
Naming her?
yeah, naming her. That's kind of rude in my personal opinion. Here it goes. Let's see. That's Julia Garner. She was in Ozark and stuff. She was in a bunch of different movies. But that's going to be interesting, and I think that she'll do a fine job. But I, I can see that the fandom could get a little mad because Silver Surfer. I mean, he was like your first super emotive, broody, angsty. I mean, he was like he made Spider-Man's angst look like positively cheerfulness. Like
Well, to
it,
me,
it
it,
was nothing but like Neil Adams drawing him on a surfboard, just talking about life, the universe, and everything, and being upset about it.
see, to me, it was him and the Green Lantern were the first, you could say, true modern sci-fi,
Yeah,
just by nature, just by
yeah.
nature. You know.
I mean, the what people forget is that the Fantastic Four was pretty explicitly sci-fi. And they introduced almost all the alien races. I'm pretty sure they introduced the Kree. I know they introduced the Skrulls. They
Yeah, they
made
did the scrolls. I think the Kree came from Captain Marvel.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I think that they might have had something before that, but maybe not. Definitely Captain Marvel for sure was the Kree. Um, and then the Kree Skrull War and the Avengers. But I mean, they were always in space. I mean, they had the Negative Zone with Blastar and Annihilus and the Watcher, and I mean, all of those characters were pretty sci-fi characters, and they were all Fantastic Four characters. You know, while Spider-Man's fighting Electro or the Shocker, they were, going to different parallel planets and
Well, Blastar is basically the Electro, basically,
yeah,
basically.
gosh, he was really crazy.
Yes, he
But
was.
he was he was something else. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that it'll be fine. I like the aesthetic. I like that they're making Galactus humanoid. Yes, he's the right size. But yeah, I don't know how people are going to react to that because, and there's a part of me that if they do turn Julia Garner's character of the Silver Surfer into a love interest for Johnny Storm, that is going to be, I don't know. That might
Annoying.
that might be a little annoying because then it's like, oh, this supremely powerful character is just
But
going to
at the
fall.
whole universe to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, who's been flying and getting planets for Galactus to eat for a very, very long time is just, oh my gosh, Johnny Storm. I mean, Johnny Storm was always kind of the playboy character, you
Yes,
know?
that was my what I'm against if he was it.
Yeah, he's
Was
never
that
been, I mean,
you really don't want my super ex-girlfriend for real in Marvel?
yeah, right. And I mean, I feel like it could be that. And it's just like, oh, I love Johnny Storm. I'm going to go up against my celestial god of a boss. It could, it could, it's going to have to be played pretty interestingly if that's how they're going to go. And I feel like that's what their in was. I feel like they were like, it's an Elseworld story. We don't have to make the Silver Surfer male, but we do need
Well,
to give him a reason, Silver Surfer, a reason to reject Galactus, which in the comics in continuity, it's because Alicia Masters sees his soul inside of him because she's blind and she's not really freaked out by him. Uh, but if you just turn that into Johnny Storm saying, "Hey, you should just fight Galactus for us because I'm awesome,"
that's pretty much it.
that will be kind of lame. That will be kind
No,
of
it'd
lame.
be totally lame. I mean, there's
Uh,
no way that would be totally lame.
I
Now,
mean,
see, if
I
they're
will,
smart,
and if they're smart, they'll just have her be swayed by Reed Richards' brain or
oh no, what I was gonna
the
say,
family setting of the whole thing.
if they're smart, referring to Disney, you
Hmm.
have your formula for a new Tomorrowland. Hint, hint.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I
What?
mean, you know, I mean, what's interesting is that I mean, an all silver woman. I mean, they're
They've
gonna.
done it before, just not in.
Well, I just think that the internet will completely sexualize her almost immediately, which is going to be a drag.
They
Uh,
always do that. They're
yeah,
always
because
going to do
that's what
that.
they do. That's just
I mean,
Gooner.
they could take the Avon lady and make her into it. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, and that's a drag. Um, but yeah, I don't have a real. charge verse as far as the gender of the Silver Surfer, but I will be kind of a little bit heavy to groan if it's like Johnny looks into her eyes and all of a sudden she wants to use the power cosmic to reject Galactus. I mean, it's just like, I mean, women should be
No, I
more,
understand what you
they
mean
should
because
be, women should be more than romantic foils in comic book movies. And they haven't quite gotten out of that yet. Not quite.
well,
I mean,
the other thing they like to do now to a degree is they like to make the person
hmm,
they do reverse bad boy. What I mean is they'll have because I was watching the last Transformers, the original base set
mm-hmm,
with my father last night. And they have, of course, the Coplans, and they have the woman who's direct descendant from that world's Merlin, blah, blah, blah. And she's falling for Mark Wahlberg, who is descended from the actual first Knights.
mm-hmm.
And you could just see, okay, we're doing the bad boy. All right, all right, all right. She's intelligent. Oh, yeah, she falls for it. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Well, because
Yeah.
Johnny Storm was a hothead into race cars, and his relationship with Spider-Man was always like Spider-Man was kind of the nerd that kind of thought the Torch was just the jockey kind of dude. And so they
No,
both,
what you say is it was true because what was it, Marvel's super team ups?
yeah.
And that was the one they liked to do all the time was
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, well,
And I
because they
remember
both,
that it was
go ahead.
I just remember Johnny all the time driving around in a fast car and even wrecking it a couple of times.
Well, because yeah, but I don't know. He was just that was what they made him into, and that's fine. I just, if they're gonna stick to that kind of characterization, making the Silver Surfer a woman that I just have a bad feeling that that's what they're gonna go is turn it into, have the Silver Surfer be a woman that's interested romantically in Johnny Storm. And then what would be cool is that she would be like, yeah, I kind of dug you, but I'm just going to travel the spaceways and figure out my life. Then I'll be happy. If she does, like, says, later, then I'll justify it. But
Well, see,
otherwise,
she could go justified. She could run into the Shi'ar.
yeah. I mean, you could introduce all kinds of races with the Silver Surfer. I mean, the Silver Surfer is one of the most powerful entities in the Marvel universe. I mean, hands down. I mean, has no problem. I mean, pretty much is holding back when he fights Thor. I mean, so, and Thor can get rid of an armada of any number of alien species on his own, which he did
Yeah.
in Secret Invasion in the comics. So, yeah, uh, I don't know. So it would be cool. Maybe they could turn it into a series or another movie, The Silver Surfer. But I,
Well, that's the other thing is, do you think that they should? I mean, we don't mind the spin-offs or the inspired by, I mean, because they really like to, as we spoke in our previous cast,
hmm
how they would, do like the Ramble cartoon and everything. Okay, okay. Do
hmm
we really want them to do another Fantastic Four follow-up with Herbie? Fantastic Four 1980 or 80, like they have X-Men 97, 80.
Well, so my
And
question, so here's now, okay, second prediction. First prediction, they're going to have the Silver Surfer in love or have romantically involved with Johnny Storm. Second prediction, they're going to the best way that they could do this movie is that they actually lose and the earth is consumed and they go through some crazy wormhole and end up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe of now. And then they sort of do Steve Rogers kind of, they're sort of an anachronism because they're kind of this family from the 60s in today's world. And they're there to try to prevent Galactus from coming to that MCU. That'd be one way to do it. The
well, they
other,
were pointing out how on the chalkboard there is Reed Richards has a parallel multiverse bridge in the
yeah,
comics,
sure.
and that's actually on the chalkboard in the scene in the
Oh,
preview.
really? I didn't look that close. I should have. Because I
Well, you
mean,
know how they like to micro search things. You're like, oh, okay.
yeah, well, if like the Council of Reeds, which
Mm.
I still think to this day that they Rick and Morty ripped off. But
Oh,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, I mean,
Definitely. There's no way around that.
but yeah, I think that, and that was Jonathan Hickman, great Fantastic Four writer. Uh, yeah, I just think they're going to end up in this MCU. I don't know how. Maybe they lose and they figure out some wormhole technology and end up in our Earth, and then everybody's like, "Who the heck are you?" And then they have to sort of figure it out. That would be cool.
Oh, Captain America
Um,
4 came out this weekend.
what did? Oh, it came out this weekend? Oh
Yep.
shoot, I missed it. I actually low key don't want to see it, but yeah, I
It's
don't.
part of our job, man.
Yeah,
This is what we do.
because I mean, to me, I mean, this is crazy as a black man to say this, but I like the Falcon being the Falcon. I don't need him to be Captain America. You know what I mean? I mean, it's fine.
I understand what you're saying, but then it goes back to two characters, not
Mm-hmm.
one related to what we're saying, one not.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they did Batman
Oh.
International, where they actually had an indigenous Batman.
Mm-hmm.
They had a black Batman who was from
Yeah, I
Africa,
thought
fat
that was
wing.
great. I thought that was great the way they did the international Batmans. Um, but
And
I
then
think,
they had Captain America, where they did the same time period, about a year later. It ended about a year ago, where they had he was gay,
hmm
Captain America. And then they had black Captain America,
hmm
and they had a native Captain America.
hmm
And you're just like, again, why? Because what they were trying to say is everybody can be Captain America if they have the skills, as a representation. We're all Americans.
well, and I do like that as a notion. I do like that as a notion, that, Captain America as, you know, that anybody can be a Captain America. But I think they do that much better with Spider-Man. Like I'm not attached to Captain America being, you know, a white guy or anything like that. Um, I'm sure there's some racist comic book fans that are in that place. I just really liked the Falcon as a character standing on his own. I thought he was a
No, I
perfect.
understand what you're saying.
I
It's
didn't feel
true.
like he was a sidekick to Captain America. I felt like they were partners. You know what I
Well, I
mean?
mean, no, that's exactly what it. That's John Stewart and Hal Jordan.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, you know, I don't,
because they both were the same time period. Is what I'm
but then
saying. They
they're,
both were the same time period.
they're like space cops. So of course there's going to be multiple different humans or different creatures being Green Lanterns. But with Captain America, it was like Captain America and the Falcon, and they were equals. I never thought that one was better than the other, but they were. I mean, it wasn't like a Batman Robin thing. It was,
You liked it like the Winter Soldier and Falcon. You like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. I like the team up. I like the duo quality of it. And making him Captain America, it's fine. I mean, but I just it feels I guess it's kind of like what we talk about when we talk about these things when they do this sort of forced casting. Um
Versus organic.
versus organic. I think in the comics it's much more organic than the movie. Well, I guess it's organic in the movie, but in the movie it's like, oh, he just stopped being Captain America and that
Here's the
was
shield.
and then just lived his life and it was like, well, I kind of feel like Captain America believed in being the good soldier more than just being like, screw that, I'm going to get married and settle down. I just it didn't
Well,
work
I
as
think
it didn't work as a character. But that's another reason why it felt like the Marvel Cinematic Universe had a period at the end of Endgame. It was called Endgame. Captain America wasn't Captain America. Iron Man was dead. And Thor was fat and hanging with the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, oh, but that's only phase 5. We need to go through the other 10 phases of Marvel Cinematic. It felt like it ended. And there's still
well,
like
that's what Kevin had said. Whatever his name is in Marvel was saying that there will be
fake
no more
Kevin Fake.
Thanos. Yeah, no
Yeah.
more. There'll be no more Thanos because there'll be no more thing. And of course, that's not true when you're doing with Doom and Kang.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you want to keep it going, because that's the thing, to want to keep it going, you can have one end godlike power. And this is one of the things that always drove me nuts, especially the Marvel cinema,
Mm-hmm.
is that you are a male and you have godlike power, they'd be sure to take it away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're female, they usually either make you sacrifice it on your own or you tone it down on your own.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, have you noticed that? Because, like, for instance, is Ego, and Star Lord is a good
Mm-hmm.
example.
Mm-hmm.
Have all this power. Like, well, you kill your father, you lose your power. You're just normal. It's like, well, the way you described, there's a whole bunch of Celestials out there.
Mm-hmm.
So shouldn't we all have a little bit of that power anyway? I'm not saying he should be immortal or anything like if his father was alive,
Mm-hmm.
but he should still have a little bit more plus than you and me walking down the street,
Sure.
you know. And it's the same thing with Scarlet Witch. They went out of their way to make Scarlet Witch ungodly powerful. If they want to talk about a god character.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that comes close to it in the cinema versus the comics is Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
And in the Phoenix Force, they play with that all the time. It's like first they make it so primal that only certain people can handle it, and all of a sudden now they got to the point that there are so many worlds where even Luke Cage has it in the
yeah.
future,
Well,
far in the future.
they just sort of eliminated the specialness of the whole thing, you know? And I mean, it was initially supposed to be kind of a special thing. I
And
mean,
I don't mind them doing it with Power Man or Wolverine, but I like, as you said, in Elseworlds.
mhm,
If the Phoenix Force went over here, if the Phoenix Force, I mean, Johnny Blaze having it. Hey, that'd be cool in
mhm,
one reality.
mhm.
Not all of them.
No. And I just think that it's been an unfortunate thing to have to water it down that way. And so, I didn't need I didn't need for Captain America to be the Falcon. I like that actor. What's his name? Anthony Mackie?
Yes,
And we were someone is just pulling their hair out because we're never getting any of these names correctly.
that's okay. We're going to go to hell because of names.
That's
We're going to
probably
be
that's
reading
fair.
names for eternity.
That's fair. That's
You
fair.
know,
But,
it's approved. Don't say it wrong.
yeah, right. But, I just am like I didn't need it. I didn't need it. But I do like the Fantastic Four trailer. I thought that Galactus really was a gave me the same kind of charge that Crypto did in the Superman trailer. I was like, oh yes, I cheered for both. July is gonna be
So
great.
basically, what you're saying is gone to your geek primal.
Yeah, I went primal
You know what I
geek
mean? Your
on it.
Greek primal. Green geek primal is like you said, crypto for Superman.
Yeah,
Me, it wasn't Galactus. It was Herbie.
Herbie
But
was
nonetheless,
yeah, Herbie
it
was
was it
good
was
too.
the same effect on me. Okay,
I
and
did like
then
yeah.
I was going to say then it's the same thing like Jurassic. I'll go to every Jurassic Park
Hmm.
movie because of dinosaurs, and
Yeah.
most people like us will go to just because of the dinosaur. We might say I'll never go to that one again, or I won't have that
Come
in my
on,
collection. Or if I do have a
Milton.
collection, it'd be a coaster.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's always a sign that I need to wrap up the pod when my dog starts barking.
No problem.
But well, so we're lightly excited about Fantastic Four. Which one are you more excited for, Superman or Fantastic
You
Four?
know I'm prejudiced. You know I'm biased or Superman. You know that.
I think
It's
I'm
just like you,
probably well, no,
Fantastic
I
Four.
think
You
I'm
go ahead.
actually more I think I'm more excited for Superman because I think it's the presenting of a whole new DC universe. So I'm much more excited. But I mean, a good Green Lantern is what I'm excited for, and a Hawk Girl. So I'm actually marginally more excited for the Superman. But yeah, so I guess where can people find you, Terrence?
At drakestormgmail.com.
You can find me at that'ssoquantum@gmail.com. Yeah, so give us your thoughts and opinions at any of those email addresses or in the comments on this YouTube video. Forgive my dog for barking. He's just high strung. But yeah, so yeah, I'll have to call this one Tony Todd and Roscoe Lee Jones. Brown. Why did I say Jones? Because
we're having name problem day.
Yeah, we're just and name problems and just some horror stuff, horror nerds, and yeah, check out Horror Noir by Shudder. It's great documentary on black horror experience. Check out Ganja and Hess, I think it's called, if I recall correctly. See, I just look at me. I'm obviously an old man. I literally just read it and have forgotten it already. Maybe that's too much ganja in my past or something. Speaking of ganja and Hess. So anyway, like we like to say, don't be a stranger.
Just be strange.
And we will see you hopefully in another week. Take care. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Yep. Bye.
Bye.